What is up, guys, and welcome back to the channel. Now today we're on the next installment of the K24 swap for Project CB9. But first things first, we need to go ahead and take a trip to the junkyard because we need to get a proper Vtec Solenoid for this engine. So without further ado, let's go ahead and take a trip out to the junkyard. Bright sunny morning, took a trip to the yard. 2005 Acura TSX. Looking for a two-prong Vtec solenoid on the back of the motor. And the engine's gone. Let's go ahead and check the other one. 2006 Acura TSX in black. Let's see if this one's got a motor. And luck has it, engine and transmission has already been snatched. I need that Vtec solenoid assembly on the back left here. I'm not sure if the CRV is the same as the Acura TSX. I'm just gonna go take a look at a CRV in the yard here. 2003 Honda CRV in green. And just my luck, engine and transmission has been snatched as well. Things are not looking too good. Let's go check some other cars here. 2002 Acura RSX base model with the K20 160 horsepower version. Anyways, what I'm looking for right here is the Vtec solenoid. Right here in the back corner of the motor. My finger's pointing to it. So there's two harnesses. So the JDM K24A that we got at home only has one wiring harness connection. And then the USDM actually has two harness connections. So I'm gonna go ahead and remove this Vtec solenoid. I believe there is 2 or 3 10mm bolts that hold this to the back of the block. So I'm gonna go ahead and get my ratchet and 10mm and try and remove these things and remove the harnesses. So let's go ahead, remove this Vtec solenoid. All right, about 5 minutes later, got the Vtec solenoid off this K20 motor, and there's the 3 10mm bolts. See how deep those things are? Anyways, taking a closer look, this thing looks like it had some type of oil leak. I don't know if you can see that seal right there, but it looks like someone has actually put some, I guess, sealant on there. And I don't know if you can see that seal's cracked right there as well. So I don't know how old this thing is. I'm not sure if this thing's aftermarket. I'm looking at the markings. I think there's some type of marking over here on the casing. Yeah, right there. I don't know if you can see that in the camera. I'm not sure about this Vtec solenoid, so I think there's another RSX here in the yard, so let's go check that one out. I mean, there's only 5 minutes to remove this thing. Okay, here's another RSX in the yard, and as you can see, this thing is badly wrecked. I mean, this has to be a rollover. I mean, just look how crushed that roof is right there. I mean, this is just amazing. Obviously, airbags have been deployed, so hopefully the occupants of this car are okay. Anyways, we got a K20 motor right here, and we got the Vtec solenoid, so I'm gonna go ahead and see if I can get that Vtec solenoid off and do a side-by-side comparison. So let's go ahead and get my 10mm ratchet and remove the solenoid. All right, a little side-by-side comparison of Vtec solenoids. So here's the one from the rolled over RSX, and this is the one from the white RSX right here. As you can see, a lot more rust content on the one that was on the rolled over RSX. And this one right here, I mean, it's got a little bit of oil on there and whatnot. Probably needs a new seal. So, I mean, new seal shouldn't be more than 10, maybe 15 bucks. So I think I'm leaning more towards this one. This one looks more mint. I mean, this one's just a lot rust. Essentially, we're just focused on the functionality of electronics on this, in addition to the internal solenoid. So I know it's just basically surface rust, but you know, we're basically building that nice JDM K24A engine, which has no rust on it, literally. So it just makes no sense in order to put an old cruddy part on there. So I think this one's the winner. I might go ahead and just clean this thing up with some simple green and scrub it down. And went ahead and got the pigtails harnesses so we can do a side-by-side comparison to see what colors plug into, I guess, the EP3 harness that we've got at home, just to make sure the color combinations are correct. Because you want to go make sure the pinouts are basically correct, you know, left to right and whatnot. So the USDM Vtec solenoids have 2 harness connectors, and the JDM Vtec solenoids have 1 harness connector from my learning. Just a little FYI. All right, let's go ahead and take this up front of the cashier and see what the damage is. All right, just got back from the salvage yard, picked up the correct Vtec solenoid. So I'm gonna go ahead and remove this Vtec solenoid from the K24A, and we'll do a side-by-side comparison of the correct one. So let's go ahead and remove this Vtec solenoid. And in order to do so, there's 3 10mm bolts, one right there, one right there, and one right there. Let's go ahead and remove the old Vtec solenoid. Okay, so in the last video, we couldn't figure out why we had an extra plug over here by the Vtec Solenoid. So this is the Vtec Solenoid pressure switch. Now, taking a side-by-side look of the K24A and the K20 Vtec Solenoid, as you can see, the K24A only has one hookup for the wiring harness. Now, I learned that the JDM K24A motors, they don't have a pressure switch for the harness connector. So all the USDM engines, the K20s and K24As, they have both a pressure switch and the main wiring harness connection. So this Vtec Solenoid's from an Acura RSX base model. It has a pressure switch and the main switch connection. So let's go ahead and do a side-by-side comparison of the wiring harness connections, since I went ahead and clipped the connectors off at the junkyard. Okay, so look at the main wiring harness connector on this EP3 wiring harness. On the left-hand side, it looks like it's black, and on the right-hand side, it looks like it's green-yellow. Let's go ahead and take a look at what the RSX connector has. Okay, so the RSX connector looks like it's black on the left-hand side and green-yellow on the right-hand side. That's good to go. Let's go ahead and look at this pressure switch now. Okay, this pressure switch wiring colors is a little hard to see because you got this protective jacket in place, but I'm gonna see if I can show you guys on film right here through this little peephole right there. Okay, now I don't wanna go ahead and damage the protective cover right here just to look at some wire colors, but if you look on the bottom of the connector, on the right-hand side, it looks to be blue. On the left-hand side, it looks to be yellow or white. Let's go ahead and compare that to the RSX connector. Okay, so look at the bottom of the RSX connector. It looks like on the right-hand side, it's yellow and red, and the left-hand side is blue. So these wires might be flip-flopped on the EP3 harness. So I'm gonna keep that in mind. I hope this is basically just a continuous current. So I hope this doesn't affect the functionality of this Vtec Solenoid. So, okay, let's go ahead and install the Acura RSX Vtec Solenoid on the K24A. But before doing so, let's go ahead and put a brand new rubber gasket in place. And there's the part number for your reference. Alrighty guys, there we have it. The correct Vtec Solenoid is now installed on the K24A. So that lingering wiring harness is actually the pressure switch right there. So we got two harness connectors on the Vtec Solenoid. So that's one of the main differences between the JDM and USDM engines is the Vtec Solenoid on the JDM only has one connector and USDM has the pressure switch plus the main connector. So two connectors versus one for the JDM. Now don't forget about the small details such as the Vtec Solenoid gasket. Now the gasket on the RSX actually broke in two and this thing is hard as a rock. So this thing was actually spurting out oil. And here's the part for your reference for the Vtec Solenoid for a K20 or K24A USDM. Alrighty guys, that wraps up today's video on the Vtec Solenoid swap out for the K24 for Project CB9. Now lessons learned, the USDM Vtec Solenoids have two wiring harness connectors and the JDM versions have one wiring harness connector. Now we got just a little bit more work to go on the engine preparation on this K24 before we can go ahead and remove the H22 from Project CB9 and drop this in position. But first things first, we're still waiting on some motor mounts from Hasport. Not sure when they'll be released, but hopefully soon. And if you guys are enjoying this K-Series swap for Project CB9, please give me a thumbs up. Thanks for watching and have a fantastic day.